إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الغمة وجاهد في سبيل الله حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين. أما بعد، فإن أحسن الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة بالنار. أما بعد. My dear respected brothers and sisters, inshallah we're going to be starting a new page within this weekly sessions in which that we're going to be talking about or dedicating many talks about the issue of atheism, or in Arabic, al-ilhad. Unfortunately, there has been a widespread of this phenomena and some of the branches of its thinking, to the point that it have reached to the Muslim world and it have really conquered the minds of many of our youth. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, many of us think that we are immune from these thinkings. And we're obligated to kind of know and have an understanding of how to deal with these questions. Because this is a must, in which that we know how to defend our religion, how to defend our belief, and how to counteract such outside belief. So inshallah, today we're going to be talking about like an introductory course or a lecture about atheism, in which we're going to be talking about the definitions of atheism, there are widespread, and we have to in order to understand who are the atheists, we have to know who are the atheists. So, and the next thing we're going to be talking about brief history, how atheism became what became the way it is right now, and lastly, which is most importantly, is what is the causes that cause people to become atheists. Because in order for us to treat a problem, we have to know its causes. So inshallah, let's kind of talk about what is some of the definitions of atheism. A common understanding is many people think that all atheists are the same. But there are many branches and there are many subtypes, and sometimes people confuse different atheists with other atheists. Actually, if somebody go into the dictionary and go into study in the details of the definition of atheism, you'll be able to classify atheists into almost 17 categories. And all of them are different. Because some people believe something and others believe something else. And inshallah, we're going to be here today. We're going to start talking about some of the common ones so we'll be able to kind of understand what's their background. An atheist, the word atheist, it comes from two different words, an A and the theist. An A, the word or the letter A, it means in the Greek language not. And theist means belief. When you combine the two, it means the one who does not have the belief. Or a person, some people, the way they identify or define an atheist, a person who had a positive argument in favor of atheism. So anybody who had not just a belief, who believe that there is no God, and he have an argument against it. He does not believe in God, and on top of that, he have an argument against it. So how people define this, if you look at, if we want to go into the issue of defining atheism, people characterize atheism into different subtypes. Sometimes people characterize them as based on affirmation. What does that mean? It means like how strong they are in their atheism. Okay? How strong that they are in their atheism. So the most common way they classify them as positive atheist or negative atheist. Okay. A negative atheist, if a person who does not believe in God. A negative atheist is a person who does not believe in God. So you tell him, do you believe in God? Do you have a religion? He would say no. But he is weak. He does not talk about his atheism. He does not have a concrete understanding of why he is an atheist. But if you ask him, you do not believe in God? He said, no, I don't believe in God. Do you have an argument to prove that such thing? He said, no, I don't have an argument. Why is that? And you will see many people like this. Because the majority of atheists, they don't believe in God and they don't have an argument to defend their argument. Why this is important? Because a lot of people, my dear respect brothers and sisters, nobody have ever given them da'wah and showed them the truth of the fact that, and that's why they have arrived at the stage that they're at. They're despaired from all of the religions that they have seen. For instance, when they come and they read religion X or religion Y, and they see the common nonsense that exists within them. So they said, what happened? They end up labeling all other religions the same. So they're despaired when they say something that is non-factual, something that is irrational, something that is literally does not make sense in a certain book. And what happened? They end up labeling all the other religions as the same. So the most common type of atheism is the negative atheist. The negative atheist. The other type of atheist, the more affirmed people are what we call the positive atheist. A positive atheist is the person who lacks the belief in God. He does not believe in God. But on top of that, what he have a strong argument to defend his belief. He have a strong argument to defend his belief. So this is when we want to talk about atheism based on how affirm that they are in their belief. Another type, what we call is we define them based on their knowledge, how much they know about atheism. They call it agnostic. Have anybody heard this term? In Arabic, we call them la adriya. La adriya. La adri. Which means I do not know. What it means that he does not believe in God, but he doesn't claim that there is no God. You understand that? He does not believe in God, but does not claim that there is no God. You mean? So meaning he does not know. He have arrived at this stage. Why? Because he does not. No one had showed him a true evidence, and he has, just kind of despaired from all the other religions. Kind of a subtype from atheism in which that they are not really sure why they are here, what's going on, what is the cause of life. Why, is there a God? He does not know. Nobody have provided him with such evidence. So this is classification what? Based on knowledge. And let's common subtypes that we have been seeing within our Muslim world, unfortunately. We call it deism. Deism. What it means that? It means believe, and this is some people who are liberal. Deism, what does that mean? It's a belief in the existence of a super being. So they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have created the heavens, the earth, and everything else. But what happened? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wal-'iyadu billah, does not intervene in his creation. خَلَقَ الْخَلْقِ ثُمَّ تَرَكَ. So that's what it means. It means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have created the creation, and wal-'iyadu billah, he have left it. So these are what? The deism, in which that they believe in something, but they believe in, like, for instance, the separation between, for instance, some people believe in the separation between the church and the state. Allah, there is no such thing as, you're being counted for and etc. You could believe in whatever you want, the commonality between all of the religions and etc. So this is something that is becoming more apparent within the Muslim world, and some people who claim that they believe in God, but yet there's no a correct way toward him. Another kind of common subtype that we even see now in the Muslim world, they call it being irreligious. He said, what are you? He said, I am irreligious. What does that mean? It means that they are indifferent. They feel hostile against any religion. They tell him he hates. He does not believe in God, and he hates all of the religions. Why? The thing is, my dear respect brothers and sisters, you have to understand some people who are ignorant in God and the creation of God and the wisdom of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have created us, and they see all sorts of evil that exists. And they see people dying, for no just reason. And what happened? And they believe and they see a lot of religions are fighting against each other. They see the Sunnis are killing the Shiites, and the Shiites killing the Sufis, and then etc. So what happened is they said, well, if religion is going to do all of this, I hate all religions. I hate all of religions. And that's what they call them, irreligious. And there's even something even more than that. And this is it exists within the realm of atheism. They call it mesotheism. Mesotheism. What is that? What is these people? They literally hate God. And for them to even talk about God, just hate. Now, the religious people, what happened? They hate the religion. But even going a little bit further, they call it mesotheism. It's what meso, hate, and belief. So they hate God. They don't want to deal with the concept of dealing with God. Why? Because they think God is unjust. How he had created, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have created evil, and etc. And inshallah, down the road, we're going to be talking about each one of these things and address them. So in order for us to kind of be able to immune from all of these things. There's one thing you have to understand, my dear brothers and sisters, and when we talk about all of these things, these are not stages within atheism. So all of them, they believe in what they believe, and they're firm in their belief. And sometimes we think that some people are closer to Islam or closer to religion than others, but no, these people have arrived at what they're at because they have a firm belief in what they believe. Now, how Islam defined atheism? In atheism, in Arabic, or in Arabic, it's al-ilhad. The word al-ilhad comes from the word lahada, which means deviation. Okay? When we dig a grave in the ground, what do? We dig a hole, and then on the side, we make a side hole within the grave itself, right? This side hole, it's called a lahad. It's like, it's a deviation from the actual hole itself. So how Islam look at al-ilhad is as something that is deviant from the common belief, from the natural belief, or the natural nature of a human being, which is al-fitra. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mentioned the word al-ilhad in the Quran many times, but not in the context that we understand atheism now. For instance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا وَذَرُوا الَّذِينَ يُلْحِدُونَ فِي أَسْمَائِهِ سَيُجْزَوْنَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed have many names, many beautiful names. And say for those who make ilhad in His name. What does that mean? Meaning, it means not means atheism here. It means people who change the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Change the name. So when we read the word ilhad in the Quran, it does not mean al-ilhad that we think about it right now, the way I define it, the disbelief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but means that when people who change the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in the Quran and in Islam, the way we look at atheists is something that is unnatural to the human being, because throughout many history, throughout even the beginning of history, many people believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether they are polytheists or whether they monotheists, all of them believe in a supreme being, many of them. But the question is, as we don't see many people claim to be an atheist, in which that they disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala altogether. But the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mentioned or talked about al-ilhad, the way I understand it now is He looked at them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defined them as ad-dahriyya. People who does not believe one day they will be resurrected. They disbelieve that one day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to bring them forth and count all of their good deeds and bad deeds. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَيَعَدُكُمْ أَنَّكُمْ إِذَا مِتْتُمْ وَكُنْتُمْ تُرَابًا وَعِظَامًا أَنَّكُمْ مُخْرَجُونَ هيهات هيهات لما توعدون إن هي إلا حياتنا الدنيا نموت ونحيا وما يهلكنا إلا الدهر. So these people, what they said, do you claim that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala one day is going to resurrect us? How a bone, when something becomes bone and dirt, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to bring it forth. You know, the only thing is going to destroy is a dahr, meaning the time. So many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about these people, to talk in a way that these people, they believe, the only thing they believe that is going to destroy them is time or a dahr. And they say, وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَعِبٌ وَلَهُ. Indeed, that this dunya is nothing but joy and fun. And that's the way to define it. إن الذين لا يرجون لقاءنا ورضوا بالحياة الدنيا واطمأنوا بها والذين هم عن آياتنا غافلون. Those who are satisfied with this world and they disbelieve in us, and they are what غافلون, in which that they are not they're not awake about what's their cause on this earth, why they exist, and etc. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, he looks at atheism as being something that is unnatural. And when we talk about them in the Quran, we talk about them in a way that they are how they are, in which that they are kuffar or they're mushrikeen. And we talked about this in the past, that sometimes the term kuffar and mushrikeen is used interchangeably in the Quran. Now, and you know, in the 21st century, there is something called the new atheism. And this is very important that I want you to guys understand. We talk about atheism, but now there is something, a whole new something called what? The new atheism. In which that it's something that a lot of atheists kind of gathered together, and they made a wave of attacks on all religions. And this has happened especially after 9/11. Especially have happened after 9/11, and they said, you know, look at what religion, look at what Islam have caused. Look at what, you know, Islam or the religions at all are the source of all evil. You know, they were afraid that because of religion, we will have a third world war. And therefore, they gathered themselves and they made a really strong attack on all of religions, in which that how could we destroy, because they think religion is irrational, religion is superstitious, does not make any sense, and science is something that is real, and it's something that we could truly depend on. Let me give you some examples, okay? So guys, I want you to put you in perspective. It's how vicious some of these atheists are. They are very strong against all of religions, and they try to do everything possible in their behalf so they can attack it. There is an atheist named Sam Harris, and he had a book that he issued after 9/11. It's called The End of Faith. And what he talked about how Islam is horrific, how it called for evil, it called for killing others, and etc. Another one called Daniel Dennett. He wrote a book that became pretty famous. It's called Breaking the Spell: Religion as a Natural Phenomenon. And again, he talked about how religion it does not make any sense and it's irrational. Richard Dawkins, he's a very famous atheist. If you search the internet, you will see many of his writings. And he had a movie called The Roots of All Evil. The roots of all, meaning, and he's talking about the roots of all evil is what? Religions. And he actually made a book that is extremely famous. It's called The God Delusion, in which that he made many arguments that prove that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wal-'iyadhu billah does not even exist. Christopher Hitchin, and he debated many Muslims, and he had a book, and this is in attacking the Muslims. He said, God is not great. How religion poisoned everything. How religion poisoned everything. And this is something to show the people that religion is the causes of all evil and the causes of all wars. Now, how atheism became the way it is right now. How atheism became the way it is right now. Back in the days, we're talking about here, in the beginning, maybe in the 15th century, it was irrational in the West for someone to disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because the church was dominant. The church, and no one, maybe there was atheists, but no one was able to confess or proclaim their atheism to everyone. Okay, so back then it was something was looked down upon, and no one was dare enough to kind of say that they're atheists. So that's the very first stage that the people at. Then what happened? People, after they start studying Christianity, for instance, and they notice there is so much nonsense that exists or contradictions that exist within the book. So what happened? People started becoming more strong about their belief. They said, how come, this is, science disproved that, especially after the revolutions. This is science does not show, this is not true. How can you guys claim this? But what happened? It came into the third stage where the church and the atheism were struggling against each other. For instance, all of us know how the church dealt with a very famous scientist like Galileo, when he claims that, for instance, that the earth is round, is not flat. And how they outcasted him, and they said, you're not allowed to go out of your house. So there was a struggle between the atheists and the church. And what happened is, later on, they made a compromise, in which they said, you know what, we understand that you have some ground to prove your point, but let's I have my religion, and you can claim whatever you want. But later on, after that, it becomes more widespread. And the atheism started to become more and more common in the West, like we see it nowadays. How about in Islam? Was it something that just kind of came out of nowhere? We see atheists back in the 8th century. Back in the 8th century, in which that they called them al-Zahiriyya. Al-Zahiriyya. What do these people believe? They believe that everything is through, everything that we human beings should believe in is through empirical methods. What does that mean? Meaning everything have to be tested. Empirical methods mean that something have to be tested over and over and over in order for us to believe it. And if we cannot test it, therefore we cannot believe it. This is al-Zahiriyya. But what happened is, some of the big scholars who defended them, like Sheikh Imam Abu Hanifa, and he made an open debate with them, and he hammered them. He literally hammered them, and they had no way for them to defend themselves. Al-Ghazali, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him, he wrote a book called Kimya al-Sa'ada. He wrote a book called Kimya al-Sa'ada. When he wrote in his book, he said, he had a very beautiful sentence in which he said, atheists are like ants on the piece of paper that cannot lift their eyes from the ink. Atheists are like ants on a piece of a paper that they cannot lift their eyes from the ink that they're looking at. So they're only looking at evidences, and they cannot look at the whole picture. You see what I'm saying? So this is what he's trying to say. So because they're so small, they only see the letters that is in front of them. But as far as when you ask them the whole picture, what's existing on the rest of the page, they cannot tell you. But what happened is, atheism became more widespread. The way we understand it, around the 16th or the 17th century in the West. Now, now we're talking about atheism now. How many people now who are in the world living right now who are atheists? Okay? If you look at Switzerland, Netherlands, Finland, Denmark, the majority are atheists. The majority are atheists. These countries, the majority of the people who live in that country are atheists. Germany, like I said, 30%. France, 40%. China, 50%. According to Win Gallup International, 5% of Saudis are atheists. 19% of Saudis they don't consider themselves religious. 19% don't consider them religious, meaning that, okay, believe in Allah, but I don't do anything else beyond that. So this is serious. When we talk about atheism, this is serious. And the kind of arguments I'll tell you now, if I ask any, I prove it to you, any of our children, they could not be able to answer it. And that's the point why we're addressing these issues. Now, what is the causes of atheism? Why atheism become widespread in the Islamic world and in the West, okay? So, like I said, in order to deal with how to treat it, the very most important things that we have to know, my dear respected brothers and sisters, is we have to know what is the causes of that. There's a scientist, his name is Neil Levin. What he said the best description lead to the best prescription. So the better you describe something, the more you'll be able to know how to treat it. Okay? So the thing is, in order for us to know how to deal with this, we have to be more objective. We have to know what we are dealing with. We have to know that some of the in order to know how the atheism, because thing is sometimes the Muslim world or us Muslims are weak in certain points, not Islam, Muslims. Let me make it clear. Muslims are weak in certain points that atheism was able to penetrate Islam and arrive at the current situation. So we have to know what's the weakest points of the Muslim. But the thing is, there are many causes. Some of the causes, it could be personal. It could be due to social reasons. And lastly, it could be due to the knowledge base of the Muslims. But what is some of the common causes, the general causes? So the general causes why atheism became widespread is because of the revolutions. Now, when we talk about the French Revolution or the Arab Revolution, the Arab Revolution, what happened? People wanted to revolt against everything that they believed in. They want to revolt against the government. They want to revolt against the status quo. They want to revolt against even their beliefs. And they want everything new. And part of that is they want a new way of thinking, more modern, and etc. The other thing is atheism has become widespread in the very modern countries. And what happened is they want to be like them. And a lot of people, my dear respected brothers and sisters, we have to understand some people are more predisposed to atheism than others. Like for instance, if somebody is ignorant, somebody who have social issues, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have tested him in many ways, and he does not know that he can go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to release the stress, or he could go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to look for solutions to why this happened to him. What do you think he's going to turn to? He's going to turn to the atheism. He said, well, how no one could come to me and address my tranquility. I'm depressed. I have issues. And no sheikh, and I'm going to be talking about this in a minute, no sheikh can answer my questions. So what I'm going to turn to? I'm going to turn to atheism. A lot of times, my dear respected brothers and sisters, this is something very common among the Muslim world. They call it borderline society. Borderline society, what does that mean? Meaning the society is thinking one thing and one thing only. And we see that very common in the Gulf world. What does that mean? Meaning that when you talk about, they think of one way, everything is one madhab, one way of thinking, no differences whatsoever. When you open certain subjects, it's a taboo. When your children come to you and say, Baba, why, who created Allah? And you smack him and you hit him. Why? How come you ask these questions? This is wrong. The questions, children can ask these questions. This question is not haram. But the point is, we know how why the parent, why did he hit his children? It's because the parent has felt threatened by that question. Because he does not know how to answer that question. So how he's going to deal with it? He's going to hit his child. And this is the wrong way. So children can ask questions. And you have to be comfortable to know how to answer these questions. Otherwise, this question, you think you have satisfied his thinking? No, you have not. He's going to keep thinking about that question over and over and over unless someone asks him that question. Or some atheist come and tell him, look, all of this nonsense. And he drag him into his way of thinking. But as far as, like I said, as far as causes, there is a lot of personal causes why people become atheists. The most common cause is what we call it egocentrism, or in Arabic, al-ananiya. Meaning someone he is arrogant, he thinks he's always right, in which that he, whatever argument you put forth for him, this is somebody who is, for instance, already an atheist, in which that he said, I don't believe any religions. I am so above all of that. Or someone who could be religious. But what happened? he is arrogant enough to study religion. He said he is so arrogant into himself. He said, alhamdulillah, I pray, I fast, I go to Hajj. But when somebody comes to him with an argument, with atheism, how is he going to answer it? He stumbled. He does not know how to defend himself. His belief is not concrete on a very well-established deen. So what happened to him? All his confidence would come down, and he would adopt something like atheism. And we see this quite a bit. When somebody is spiritually dry, and thing is, nobody have tama'nina. No, he does not. He does not read the Quran. He does not pray. Maybe anybody. When somebody is that dry, who does not have that tranquility, and you tell him, by the way, if you don't believe in God, you could do whatever you want to do. Why you have to believe in God? Who says that you have to pray 5 times a day, and Hajj and Siyam? You're free. You could do whatever you want, and he feel happy temporarily because of that. Some people, my dear respected brothers, what we call a superficial thinking, in which that they like I said, they believe, they have very basic understanding of their religion. And again, anytime somebody throws something new at them, they don't know how to answer. And by the way, this is the majority of the Muslims nowadays. The majority, when you throw at them a basic question that the atheists try to challenge you, wallahi, most of us, they don't even know how to answer it. Many people are impulsive, they're thirsty about anything new. Many of us, they follow our own desires, and that's the majority of the people who go into atheism. Because what? They follow their own desires. Now, subhanAllah, think of it this way. So for somebody who does not know, as a Muslim, who does not know why we do what we do, he does not know that we have, that we pray 5 times a day for a reason. We go for Hajj for a reason. We fast for a reason. We struggle, day and night, doing all sorts of worshiping for a reason. And you tell them, what? All of this, you could put that aside and you could do whatever you want. You could commit zina. You could sleep with many women. You could eat all sorts of riba or haram money, and no one was going to ask you. And so when you give him all of this, he's like, why not? Why not? This is something good. Also, some people who are, for instance, who have psychological issues, seriously, they're more prone to atheism. Like, for instance, they think in one way, they're depressed, or they have, they're obsessive compulsive kind of, they're not mentally, they're not stable. They're prone to this kind of thinking too. Again, what are now? I'm not going to take too long. Just kind of a couple of slides. What is the social reason? The social reason why people become atheists. Again, like I told you, many societies within the Muslim world, and even within our masajid nowadays, and in which that they are, they're one-sided, they're weak, and they have no immunity. Now, let's be realistic. Now, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, now we're talking about atheism here in this masjid. How many masajid in Columbus do you think have addressed this issue? 0. Because we're not immune to it. Now, when we see our children going outside and they don't even know how to answer this question and they become atheists, because sometimes you have to understand one thing, there is almost a spectrum between being a religious person and an atheist. Some people could be, they could be irreligious, or they said, I'm not religious, but deep inside they could be atheist, but they're afraid to proclaim their atheism. And by the way, this exists with many of our children, but we don't know. They're not strong enough to claim their atheism. I'm telling you, this is reality. Many of our children, they don't have the guts to say it because they're afraid maybe their father is going to do something with them. This is reality. But the thing is, why is that? Because they're weak. They have no counter argument to all of these things. Like I told you, a closed society does not allow people to answer these kind of questions. What happened? People become frustrated, and they wanted to kind of change the norms and adopt new way of thinking. Now, women oppression. women oppression. And a lot of women who become atheists, why do they become atheists? Because they said, one, they claim that Islam oppresses women. That's one. Second thing is, they have, maybe you could have abusive people within their family that abuses them, and they use that in the name of Islam. There is a story that I've read in which there was a woman, a woman doctor. Her husband hit her in her face. So she went to the sheikh and told him, how come my husband did this to me? And the sheikh, instead of trying to cure the problem or trying to defend her against her husband, he said, there is in the Quran, it says that women are allowed to hit men. Men are allowed to hit women. This is wrong. So what happened? She said, is this Islam that oppresses women? First of all, where in the Quran where a man is allowed to hit his woman, hit her, punish her, something that is that drastic, and on top of all that in her face, which is purely something that is against the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So where did people come that? Again, ignorance. A lot of times, my dear respected brothers and sisters, when some of our Muslim countries, we are so backward, and because they think that we are backward because of what? Because of our religion. And when they look at the West, they said, mashallah, look at the modernism, look at this, look at the buildings, look at the cars, look at the money, and they make association between science and modernism and atheism, and they think that Islam is the cause of all of that. By the way, there is a religious or non-religious, it's got nothing to do with whether you are modern or not, because we have seen many modern countries who are religious, or you have modern countries who are not religious, and you have poor countries who are not religious too. So it's got nothing to do with that. But the thing is, sometimes the media kind of make this to us pretty obvious. Another common thing is when we have many sects that exist within the religions, people become confused. So you tell me which one is right? Is it Sunnah or Shia or Sufism or whatever it is? So when they see many people fighting against each other, people who are ignorant, he does not know the truth. He's like, you know what? Forget all of it. I don't want to believe in none of it. Some of the common causes of what we call cognitive causes, like knowledgeable causes of why people become atheists, when people are weak in their deen, when people are, when people are not reading what's going to happen to them, they're more prone to these things. What's even much more important, my dear respected brothers and sisters, and this is something that I see very common within our masajid, and even back home, in which that our scholars, when we try to answer these questions, we use the same arguments that Ahmad ibn Hanbal and Shafi'i have used, or the same examples that they used back then. But you have to, when somebody comes to you in the 21st century, you have to give them contemporary examples to make it relate to them, to make sure that you quench their thirst when you answer these kind of questions. Another thing is some of our scholars, unfortunately, they refuse to go into these kind of research, to go into an answer and go into details to answer all these questions. And this is drastic. For instance, literally, I had trouble finding contemporary scholars that we know of who address these issues in details. Seriously. Many of them, we talk about Aqidah, okay, generic terms. We talk about Quran, we talk about all sorts of things, but when it comes to things that humans or our young people are dealing with from day to day, you will not find many. And when somebody like a young person, he's trying to defend his religion, and he go and type into Google how to answer this, he would not find it. He would not find it. And what happened? He thinks that we have no counter argument, and he have doubts in his belief. So these are, because like I said, my dear respected brothers, these are some of the common causes why people go into atheism. Again, it's sometimes there's something wrong with us. The way we educate. Now when we go to any Islamic school in Columbus, what do the number one that they are taught is what? The number one that they're taught is what? Quran, right? Memorize the Quran, memorize the Quran, memorize the Quran. And then what? Memorizing the Quran is good, don't get me wrong. But the thing is, if somebody memorizes the Quran and he's hollow from the inside. He does not know how to defend his aqeedah. It does not become a benefit to him. Many of us, we talk about Quran, Hadith, Fiqh, and etc. But do we know how to answer these questions? We don't. And I have seen it in which people who are literally, they have the ama'im, they have turbans, and they don't even know how to answer these questions. So therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, inshallah, this is going to be an introductory kind of lecture. Inshallah, next week we're going to be going into much more details as far as some of the way how atheists think and some of the counter argument, inshallah. And we're going to use it argument every week. We're going to be using one argument at a time, bidnillah ta'ala, and inshallah we'll be able to kind of address this issue in completion. If I say anything that is good, this is from Allah subhanahu and His Prophet. If I say anything that is inappropriate for myself and shaitan, جزاكم الله خير اجتماعكم سبحانك وبحمدك نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاكم الله خير.